What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? This is Ernie, Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. So today's video is actually a reward for the fundraiser we did within the last month or so for the Bail Project. This was one of the incentives, and it was requested that I do a video breaking down the Image Comics character, Ant. That's right, we are going to talk about Ant's origin, her powers, history, all that stuff right now. But first, wash your damn hands. And let's hit that intro.
Word to wise, grass only greener when it's fertilized. Gave them truth in these songs, they prefer to lies. Destiny beautiful, adrift in her purple lies. You can't see me, you Stevie, wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
Before we get started, if you want to see more awesome comic book videos like this one, it only takes 2 clicks to become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers. Click. Ant. Real name, Hannah Washington. First appeared in Ant #1 in 2004 and was created by Mario Gully, aka OMG. Ant was originally an Arcana Studios character, and in her original series, it didn't even focus on a grown-up hero, but an 8-year-old Hannah Washington who was having trouble fitting in at school and also dealing with the potential incarceration of her father. The meat behind the story and her origin lied in her imagination and how she wrote in a journal about a superhero named Ant, who she told everyone she would one day become, and eventually learning as an adult that all her childhood memories are actually false, but her power fantasy of Ant is in fact very real. Ant possesses enhanced speed and strength, both of which are quite considerable. She's able to dodge bullet fire and other conventional attacks, and her strength is considerable enough to lift a semi-truck with an oil tanker attached to it completely off the ground. So that's a minimum of 12,000 pounds, and she does this effortlessly. Her basic power set is not unlike most superheroes, specifically bug-themed ones, but the main bread and butter of her abilities is a pair of antennae built into her costume. These antennae are not just window dressing, these give her superhuman level senses, plus are outfitted with razor-sharp blades, allowing them to be used as weapons. Their length is also long enough she often uses them in a whip-like fashion. She can also use these same antennae to deflect bullets and other fast-moving projectiles. This was originally thought to be something she only imagined herself doing as a child, but as we learn later in her 12-issue series under Image Comics, this is quite possible. The antennae are also able to sense nearby objects, people, and animals. They also let her see in infrared. Another special aspect of Ant is the rest of her costume, an exoskeleton of sorts that is able to regenerate itself using Ant's own blood sugar as a power source. If it is destroyed or damaged in any way, she must eat or otherwise boost her blood sugar in order to repair it. She most often achieves this by using a spray can themed to look like bug spray. She also originally thought this was how to put on her costume, but it's actually more like a symbiote and is bonded to her on a molecular level. It's a complex mass of nanomachines created by the US government, likely with some alien origins, and can appear on her body at will. With the suit on, she's able to stick to walls and crawl across ceiling surfaces. She also seems to have some regenerative capabilities, as once her hand was cut off, and not only was she still able to control that hand enough to flip someone off while it was separated from her body, she was also able to reattach that same hand later thanks to the nanomachines that make up her costume. She's a highly skilled hand-to-hand fighter, likely trained in various martial arts techniques and tactics. She's not only been able to go toe-to-toe with her own villains, but has even thrown hands against Spawn and did not necessarily lose that fight. She actually got in more than her fair share of shots on the king of Rat City. She's also a world-class acrobat. Her ability to move with grace, coupled with her super speed, makes her near impossible to hit by any but the best of the best in hand-to-hand combat fighters. Hannah, even without the suit and powers, possesses a willpower that could be thought to rival that of DC Comics' Green Lantern. She's been beaten half to death and tortured and never caved in. She's also very good at analyzing situations and figuring out the best method to handle the issue. Considering she has no formal tactical analysis training, this is quite special. This may be a direct result of her unusual level of awareness dating back to her childhood. She's always known more about the world than children her age growing up. She often seemed to have adult-level awareness and intelligence even as a kid. Her one weakness is her own mental illness. She is often prone to hallucinations, often happening at the most inopportune times. She's been fighting criminals and then boom, suddenly realizes she's not. She's attacking random people. The somewhat meta nature of her character is revisited in her Image Comics run, where Hannah is aware that there are comics being published about her aunt persona. These same comics are also published by Image Comics. Speaking of comics, she's also a big comics fan, though at the time of her Image Comics run, she has admittedly fallen off of comics but is looking to get back into them. During her Image Comics run, it is hinted that during the fallout of 9/11, Osama bin Laden and his Al-Qaeda regime had been creating an army of supervillains. To stop them, all of Image Comics heroes, Spawn, Savage Dragon, and others banded together. Even Superman of DC Comics and Hulk of Marvel Comics were present. Ant is also thought to be one of the greatest and strongest of all of them. Speaking of that moment, she's also encountered multiple mainstay heroes in Image Comics like Savage Dragon and Spawn, and she has also stumbled across merchandise of Image Comics character Invincible. According to Ant creator Mario Gully, he came up with the character like this. He says that I invented Ant in jail in 1996. I was convicted of robbery and sentenced to 1 year in probation. The event was a turning point in my life. I used to draw portraits and hot chicks on envelopes for commissary. One day around day number 6 of 358, I was depressed about where my choices in life put me. I was looking out the barred window and a single ant crawled in from the outside of my window sill. I said to myself, man, I wish I were an ant. Then I could crawl right out of this place and start my life all over. Well, I couldn't pull that one off, so I decided to make a homemade comic book about it. It got around and I had a little audience with my cellmates. Really built up my confidence about drawing. That's when I realized that one day I could be a comic book artist. I sent out my first submission from the county jail. I hope one day my story can be an inspiration to anybody out there who has a dream. Ant was ultimately canceled due to the mural painting art style that it employed. Supposedly, it was costly and timely to create and replicate. Eventually, Mario Gully brought Ant back under the Big City Comics banner with Ant Unleashed. This series was a fair bit more edgy and adult than the two previous series that came before it. A few years after that, in 2012, Ant creator Mario Gully sold the character of Ant to Image Comics pioneer and Savage Dragon creator Eric Larson. Now, with that said, I do highly recommend, if you want to check out more about this character, I do highly recommend that you check out Ant's original miniseries, Ant number 1 through 4 from 2004, and of course the 11-issue miniseries under Image Comics. And I even recommend you check out all 3 issues of Ant Unleashed under Big City Comics, even though I don't think that one's as good as the first 2. Now, normally when I do these videos, I like to pick someone who I think can play this character on the big or small screen, and I decided to go with one of Prince's The New Power Generation members and actress Andy Allo, who some of you may know from her appearances on Black Lightning, Chicago Fire, Pitch Perfect 3, and more recently Amazon Prime's Upload. Andy Allo has very good range for for someone who initially started out in music and then eventually drifted over into acting. She's got a look to her that basically screams that she could play in a superhero related movie or TV show. And not only that, I feel like she also would have some of the comedic timing to be able to play off of Ant's more sarcastic nature that we see in the comics. That said, Ant is a very interesting character. I think that Ant is someone that, people, really no one talks about. I never, honestly, until someone brought it up in the chat, a few Blerd caves ago. And of course, when it rolled across my desk while we were doing the Bail Project fundraiser, I never really had heard anyone bring up this character before, despite the fact that, I remember this character. But even for me, someone who, is normally always on the lookout, for black and brown superheroes, to talk about on this channel, even even I wasn't as familiar with the character as I thought. I only knew of Ant from the Image Comics run. I was never even aware there was issues of Ant that predated that until like way later. So yeah, I highly recommend this character. I think she's good. I just wish that she would have gotten more of a chance, and whether or not this character could survive in today's comic book climate is another story. I don't really know, but I definitely think that, you know, she's worth the read. And if for whatever reason, if somehow, since Image does theoretically still own the character, if they decided to bring this character back, I think if you get the right writer, I think you could get it to work. You could even bring back Mario Gully and have him, you know, resume work on that character. I would love to see what he could do with it in today's climate. But anyways, let me know what you think about the character Ant. Did you already know about her, or are you today years old finding out about her? Wash your damn hands and sound off in the comments.
So hey, you made it to the end of the video. Awesome for you. If you enjoyed this video, and if you made it this far, I don't see how you didn't, do me a favor. Hulk smash that like button. And if you want to see more awesome videos like this one, make sure you click subscribe so you can become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers, and tap that bell so you know when I post up. Also, feel free to go check out my Patreon, where if you chuck in a buck, you can get early access to most of my videos up to a week early. And if you have time, make sure you swing by nerd901.com, where you can find more of my content as well as other amazing stuff. Anyways, until next time, I love you 3000 plus ultra!